stay curious. I think that is the big thing that I think just gets missed. Just like ask them questions until they don't want to answer any more questions because you have been so inquisitive about trying to understand that.
Everyone wants to build stronger pipeline, but only a few know how to make it happen. If you're listening to this show, you know outbound is not dead. You just need a little help building a system that actually works. Well, you're in the right place. I'm Todd Busler, and on this show, we're breaking down the plays, processes, and frameworks behind repeatable pipeline growth, straight from the people who built it. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, pumped for our guest today, Harry Monkhouse. I called him pre-curry on a Friday night. He spent time at companies like Terminus and 6 Sense and does a lot of SDR consulting in his spare time. Today, he shares what it's been like moving out of go-to-market tech into the security space, building an SDR team, growing a team internationally, and we debate a little bit how successful AI has been in that go-to-market motion. You're going to enjoy. Thanks for listening. Thanks for coming on. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
I'm doing great. Yeah, good energy here, feeling awesome on Friday. I'm excited to have you on, Harry. You know, you've worn multiple hats, SDR, AE, go-to-market consultant. You spent a lot of time in go-to-market tech. How has that breadth shaped your perspective on outbound and where outbound is today?
I mean, if I come way back to the start of the journey, right? I think one of the things that I've quickly found out being an SDR was like, you're so siloed in your own like little bubble within a company. I was like, man, I'm really struggling with that. We were probably a late adopter almost to outreach. And I remember using that. And I remember my first 2 months, it was like everything was in Salesforce. And then you're like, yeah, this outreach tool doesn't seem to work very well. I'm not using that. And then you go, but one of the things you then go and do is you go and speak to other people about how they use the technology. And I'm like, this is transformative. We're just using it really poor. And no wonder I'm not seeing as much value. And that kind of loops back to, I think, a lot of the different techs that you're talking about there, having come from, I guess, an IT background, then jumping into go-to-market tech. And go-to-market tech is really kind of like sales and marketing. So you get to see, and then RevOps is trapped in there a little bit as well. So you can see quite a lot of different lenses. And then back into cybersecurity, I think it gave me a perspective of what I think now good should look like from a go-to-market standpoint. I think even if you look at, with my past history of Terminus and 6 Sense, both like, hey, here's how you prioritize accounts. Like before going into that, I don't think I was really prioritizing my accounts as a BDR. I was literally just like, hey, I've got 2,000 accounts. I'll be able to get through those very easily in 6 months in a good manner. And then I know who I need to call for the second half of the year. Whereas going in these directions is like, at 6 Sense, I had 60 accounts as an AE on a quarterly basis, and only maybe 10 of those refreshed from a strategic standpoint. So I was like, man, this is so different in the way that we go to market, but super interesting, gave me a great landscape of what I think now good should look like, and especially working with a lot of their top customers as well.
Yeah, let's dive into that a bit. And for people that aren't familiar, you know, Terminus super early in the kind of ABM world, 6 Sense, obviously most people would know. I think some benefit of working in go-to-market tech is you get to see just so many go-to-market motions through your customers, right? And what great looks like and what are other people doing. So you talked about kind of the importance of account prioritization. What else would you say you took away from those runs at Terminus and 6 Sense and how that made you a better leader today?
I think Terminus was quite unique in the fact that I was the third employee in Europe.
Oh, wow.
So we were setting up. It didn't finish quite as I think we planned it to be as successful. I think we just got dominated in the market, and it was such a new product that maybe we didn't do the right level of backing as maybe we should have on reflection. But man, a super exciting opportunity of like how figuring out start to finish of how we should be selling in a European market. What were the key things that marketers were trying to prioritize? Like, are we speaking to the right people? Are we making sure that we're getting the most of our ad spend? If people come to the website, what are those triggers? And I think when I look at now my business development playbooks, a lot of it is trigger based. And I think SalesLoft as an organization have done an incredible job about talking about their trigger points quite openly on LinkedIn. I've taken a lot of that as part of that. So still to this day, we do, not necessarily with those platforms, but we still look at, like, has someone changed job roles on LinkedIn? Have they been a past customer? Do they follow your LinkedIn page? Like 3 easy triggers, which I've been taught from being at Terminus and 6 Sense, is those triggers and then what you do with that. So running mini plays and playbooks, they're constantly on trigger bases. If someone comes to our website, so we've got a new solution that we're just absolutely trying to talk to everyone about here at LastPass. People probably don't know us for that technology. They've known us for a password manager. Okay, right. Every time someone comes to that page, have we got a rep that's reaching out to them to say, like, hey, see, normally when people look at this website, they're normally thinking about these 3 things. Curious to see if you fit in that bucket, whether that's the exact message we're using, but it's on that premise, right? And I think taking that through has been instrumental, but those advanced playbooks have been critical, which I don't think, being in my first managerial role at Datto, I had maybe the same level of knowledge there. It taught me a lot about go-to-market and some of the importance with RevOps as well.
So big takeaways there is kind of account prioritization, signal or kind of trigger-based selling and associated playbooks with that. And then also getting just more exposure to, I think, the blend between sales and marketing and RevOps and understanding the bigger picture. Why'd you decide to get out of go-to-market tech? I'm curious, like, how that journey was, and then we'll dig in at what's been the biggest differences.
It didn't need to necessarily, I'm not putting it down to like, hey, I wanted to get out of go-to-market tech. I think what happened is I was in AE, then I moved into a go-to-market consultant. That was kind of a new role. Essentially, I was focusing on helping a lot of the red customers. Like 80% of my day was the people that were maybe had taken the investment, but weren't seeing the true value. And it just got to a point where I was helping a lot of these big organizations build their business development teams or their pipeline procedures around 6 Sense as a platform. And I was just in that position where I was like, I'm doing this for a lot of other people and getting good results. Could I do this myself again? I've done BDR management before. Like, I might as well go and get paid for the results that I'm bringing to these businesses. I do have my own consultancy on the side that I'd still do a lot of that go-to-market consultant. I'm a 6 Sense partner. So there's this year and last year, I've done like 3 6 Sense customers that I have supported, whether that's through a renewal setup or optimization. But additionally to that, I was just like, cybersecurity, I think it's a market that probably isn't having the same level of dips as some of the other markets. And I've kind of done it a little bit before with my tenure at Datto.
I want to dig into that. There's a common conversation around, hey, I've been a successful rep as an AE. I'm looking at, do I go the enterprise AE route? Do I go try to be in management of AEs? And you went back and stepped in. I'm not saying down, I'm saying step back into, BDR leadership. Was it just because you're like, hey, I've gotten really good at this skill, I think this is a good way to capture more value for myself, or what led you to that?
No, so I'm actually almost the opposite way. I stepped into an AE role because I felt like I had to be an AE. I think it's been coached into me from a younger age, like 3, 5 year, 7 year, 10-year plan, whatever that might look like for you. If I want to be a CRO one day, which is an ambition of mine, or being a VP of a region, it's a stripe that I want to tick off. And if that is the case, show me how many BDR managers that have never been an AE be a successful CRO. There's not many. I do know that there's a few, but they've probably worked at some really exciting startups, or they've worked in a real growth mode as a business. And that's allowed them to have that opportunity. So it's about right place, right time. And I didn't want to put right place, right time into the hands of someone else. I wanted to say like, hey, let me go and be an AE. I was always thinking about max 5 years. I ended up doing just shy of 3. I think what I very quickly realized as an AE though, is some of the natural things that I returned to. I was always good at building pipeline, always good at BD, never afraid to get on the phone. I would say I probably had one of the best relationships from a BDR AE perspective within the companies that I've worked at. And my natural tendency was to always want to coach. And I think after that, I went and interviewed at a startup who I ended up becoming an advisor for anyway. We were even discussing like me coming in as a founding BDR and almost starting again. and just building out that motion in that team. And one of the things that I think I'm extremely grateful for him sharing with me is he sat me down. He was like, you are an incredibly operational person. Like, you can see things rather than the want to do things. And I think for me, that was a very click moment when I went back into being an AE again for the second time, that always stuck with me of, hey, I'm actually really, what are the bits that I actually now really enjoy is the tactical element. Like, give me a strategy, give me a problem, let me go and build you something, and then come back and then coach people on how to go and do that, rather than me doing it myself. Don't get me wrong, I still love getting on the phones and testing out messaging myself. But very quickly I knew where my skill set was. And then that's why I then was like, hey, I think it's time to get back into management. So the goal now is BDR manager. I run the global team now. I'd love to get a director title. If there's an AE manager role available, I would love to do that as well. And then just start working my way up through the managerial ladder. But yeah, I don't think an IC role was ever going to be the thing that I was always going to stay in. It was a stepping stone to get back into management once I'd had a taste for that.
That makes sense. I think it's really interesting thought right now. I think there's a premium for leaders that are really good at pipe gen and like can build that muscle, right? Like, I have a lot of my friends and peers that have been great AEs, great VPs of sales, and I'm getting a ton of texts and messages around like, hey, this BDR game, this pipe gen motion has changed. We have no idea what we're doing. Right? Like, so I think this skill set, there's just a premium on the people that know how to build pipeline consistently and build the machine. So I think it's smart in terms of how you've approached it.
That's changing massively though with AI. I think we're only like 3 years off from that being a very, very different landscape from a BDR.
Say more there. What do you mean exactly?
Definitely from the conversations that I've been having with other BDR leaders, we're definitely probably seeing the AI agents really come through, depending on what kind of route you want that to go down, like whether it's just email, whether it's phone. But I do think there is going to be a world where a BDR does have multiple agents that they are responsible for. And you probably don't need a team of 20 reps then, you probably need a team of 6 because they can be more efficient. But I don't think we're quite there. Don't get me wrong. Some of the stuff that is being created at the moment is absolutely phenomenal. And it's scary how quickly it's coming. But if there isn't necessarily quick governance around a lot of this stuff, then yeah, we will be in an age where a lot of, I think, sales could be done by AI. I even think part of the AE role could be done by AI, procurement done by AI.
What parts of it do you think is absolutely phenomenal so far?
The 6sense, they have their own AI agent, so we got to see a lot of like firsthand how much revenue that tool was producing. I still think I agree with their sentiment around like there's a lot of MQLs that just never get followed up on. And there's a lot of tier 3, maybe tier 2, mid-tier 2 personas below that just don't get the love and attention needed. I'm still a big advocate for, hey, even if you're doing cold calling, like just try and get a little bit more information. Like I was calling this week and I was speaking to a guy and I was like, do you even use this technology? Who's responsible for it? I walked away with way more information that I could use in my hypothesis around how I think we could help that account in that 5 minutes of that conversation. I think AI could be a great source for finding out a lot of that like low level stuff that helps the bigger strategic conversations. So I still think a lot of the email agents, I'm desperate to get an agent for each region set up and configured and built out so that I can get it doing some of the tiering processes or some of the tiered personas, and then have any engagement that we're getting from that, like the BDRs, and then that's a prioritized stack. Hey, we've seen X amount of emails. Harry's opened X amount of emails. Let's go and dial him because he's been engaging with that. Oh, and by the way, he's clicked through to the website and he's come to this page and he's engaged with that. That builds out a really, really clean structure. But I think a lot of people try not to kill their domains and stuff. So there's other technologies I think you have to buy with it to make it successful.
It's interesting because I really disagree with you on this. I think we're not there yet. And I think most of the companies I'm talking to or our customers or what we're doing internally, it's like, yeah, there's been some value in time savings or getting more research for SDRs, but I don't think we're there yet. I'm excited. I agree with you. I'm bullish on where it's coming. But I go back to my point. I think what will end up happening is the person that instead of knows how to hire and train and enable a ton of human BDRs, like that skill set on who actually knows how to set up these agents, what to do with it and run the plays is equally going to be valuable, because I just think there's a huge premium on people that can generate pipeline. Like before, you go back in ZERP area and everyone was buying all this tech. It's like there's a premium on good closers. And I think like the skill set you have is going to become more and more valuable. So yeah, interesting though. I want to dig into your experience, Harry, in LastPass. Like first, for people that aren't familiar with the product, maybe just explain, you mentioned security, but what's the space they play in? What exactly are you guys up to? And I'd love to hear about what was the situation you walked into? Like what were the problems you see? How did you approach trying to fix them? What were some of the biggest levers or changes you made? I know there's a lot there, but you spent a couple of years. I'm really excited to learn about the journey.
Yeah, so LastPass is essentially probably well known for its protecting people's passwords. So giving people an easy way to log in and protect their credentials. So I think a lot of people probably use like Apple Password, Google Manager and stuff. The challenge that you have at the business level is that isn't necessarily controlled at an admin level. So I can't see, as an IT team, I can't see that, hey, Jess in marketing has her dog name 123 for every single password, which is a huge vulnerability aspect. And people that get breached, there's a huge cost of downtime. I think the exciting thing that we're going into is this new space where we're giving IT teams visibility into which applications are being leveraged, whether they're sanctioned, unsanctioned, and how they logged into those. So, hey, Harry and Henry are using ChatGPT. That shouldn't be an application that they should be leveraging. We need to look into that.
Do some people say that actually? Do you see that people don't want their teams using ChatGPT still?
Yeah. We've got a very strict AI policy here. I mean, there's been some crazy examples. I mean, you look at Samsung, they released their IP code into that, and then it became publicly sold on the black market. And I think they lost 180 million within 32 seconds or something ridiculous like that. There's, yes, I think there's a lot of companies that we speak to that are either have no AI policy or have a very, very strict AI policy. But a lot of companies that we still speak to who you would think would have clear visibility on stuff haven't got a clue what ex-employee at home is using, which poses a huge risk for a lot of companies. So hopefully that's a snapshot into what LastPass is. But to your question around kind of what did I walk into, joined as the EMEA manager we're recording this, in 3 weeks I would have been here a year. I joined to run the EMEA BDR team. We started with 7 reps. We're a team of 4 now, but I now look after the global team. So we'll have 4 reps in North America, 2 reps in APAC, and then 4 in EMEA. And traditionally, what I walked into was we were a very heavy inbound organization. And actually, what's been really interesting is I've actually spoken to most of our competitors, BDR managers as well, and they are also in a very similar place where actually outbound hasn't been a core relying aspect of their go-to-market as much. So I would say in our space, it's quite an immature outbound motion. But that's one of the things.
Why do you think that is, Harry? Because like when I look at LastPass, I've never been in the security space, but I know that I understand it. The market's really big. A lot of people have a need for this. Why do you think that is?
I think it's because it has quite a big B2C motion. Because we've got 35 million users globally. Like you might sign your family up to this. You might start a free trial. I think in my career, I think this would be my 3rd password manager that I've used. I've used our competitor 1Password. I've used Keeper before. Of course, now I'm a LastPass user because I get my own account. But you can sign up for free and do all of that. And then there's a tiered motion. So I think there's been a lot of success for all people being like, hey, we've got these B2C users. Could we turn this into a B2B motion? And that becomes, again, you've got to be very clever with the language there. But yeah, that's an area where I think a lot of the time, we see a lot of past users from a personal perspective come as business users. And I think a lot of the time it's just been, people have been very reliant on good marketing and that inbound channel to be flowing as well.
So based on that, you mentioned some plays around people changing jobs, new execs, people hitting specific pages. Like, has most of your effort been then on like, hey, what are the plays we're running on this inbound or from the kind of consumer to business conversion? I'd love to learn, like, It's really interesting, and not many businesses walk in to have 35 million users, right? If I'm just saying, okay, I have to get pipeline, that's a really interesting pool to tap into. How did you go about it?
So I think we're still probably going through quite a few different iterations of it. I think we've had a good stab at, hey, where would we want our ICP to be? Do we want enterprise companies where, hey, bigger deployment, or do we want where I think we probably a lot of our customer base sits, which is maybe in that kind of SMB mid-market section. And I think we've moved the BDRs kind of up and down throughout the year. And one of the other definitely processes that we've looked at doing is, because we've got this new exciting technology, the first thing that you immediately turn to is like, does everyone in our customer base know that? Especially if we've got hundreds and hundreds of thousands of business users, we definitely need to be tapping into that. So this is the first time I've ever, I suppose almost in a business development role, I would say, I've done it a little bit as an AE, like farming, but I would say we've actually used the BDR team within a bit more of a farmer motion. And we've actually seen some really good successes of that. And actually the win rate is the most, probably the exciting thing of we actually do really good. But again, you're looking at, hey, still from a new business perspective, you probably we're still missing that motion to drive probably that repeatable outcomes that we're looking for. So I think my focus is how do we go and build out that more comprehensively and build an end-to-end plan of, hey, what are those plays to go and drive that? But I think they've been great because we've been shifting them around all over the place this year. And it showed a lot of agility and we've got a lot of wins from there. It's just about how do we create more of those repeatable plans. So I think a long-winded answer to, hey, how did you think about that? I think a lot of those iterations we've been thinking about differently throughout the year. And hopefully we should know kind of, hey, what are those maybe key winning moments that we do need to focus on for next year?
What like training, you've been in this game a while, a big part of this is training and enablement of the team. Breaking into a new logos is a hard motion. Going to expand customers requires a different level of finesse and knowledge. What advice or learnings or mistakes do you have for people that are maybe transitioning more of their muscle in the BDR organization to existing customers? Because it's actually something I'm hearing quite a bit right now. So I'm curious what you've learned there.
Yeah, I think again, you've still got to figure out what those buckets are or what those trigger points are, what we were talking about earlier. So I think a key one that you can very easily turn to is like, when is your renewal up? So do you use them at that kind of 30, 60, 90-day period as a trigger point? Additionally to that is, what kind of buckets do they fit into? Maybe from a health score perspective, maybe it's adoption rate, maybe it's particular features that they're leveraging versus not. So again, we've got 3-4 different tiers and different add-ons that you could bolt on and use. Which ones are the most optimal? And then very quickly, I think as soon as you start getting a couple of wins, you can then find the trends of, oh, actually we see this converting at a really high percentage. So I think a lot of the time, I think customer base is easier. That's what I will say. It's a very easier conversation, right? Hey, it's Harry calling from LastPass. LastPass makes sense to them immediately. Whereas I think a lot of the time you could be having these conversations, they're like, sorry, where are you calling from? So you get less objections early on, but you get also a lot of people that would say, hey, our sentiment is fine. Hey, we don't need that, or we don't want to explore that. So again, if you've got any additional freemium versions or product-led growth motions that you can offer as part of that, would be a key area that I'd be thinking about utilizing. But I think probably similar to how I would say about the AE function, right? What I think I've learned from it is very difficult sometimes to be switching between both. Similar when you're like an all-round AE and you manage books of business and you do the hunting and new business as well. I think the level of qualification and discovery needed, or level of conversation that needs to be had of a new business deal, is you're just operating at a slightly higher level, because what you need to do is you need to have them articulate the implication of the pain that you've maybe just discovered. Whereas, yes, you can do that. Of course, that's super important within the customer base, but you don't have to do it to the same level, because they've already bought into the idea that this is something you could potentially solve for. So I think it's just that level extra. And I think we have found difficult sometimes is flip-flopping between the both to know, okay, have we got someone who's 6 months into their first ever sales role? Do they have the understanding to be able to like chop and change really quickly between the different motions? And I think sometimes, yeah, that can definitely be challenging.
Yeah, that whiplash there is hard. A big thing I'm taking away, Harry, from this conversation is like just focus on warmth, right? Like you mentioned, playbooks for people coming to specific pages, people that have used the product and moved, transferring some of the B2C users, getting people that are existing customers to expand. I agree with that. I think most companies have a lot more warmth and familiarity than they think. And going about it the pure outbound way is just getting more and more challenging. Harry, I want to switch gears to some of your consulting experience. I know you're like really active in the kind of SDR, BDR leadership scene. What's the biggest opportunity you see in kind of outbound and prospecting, and how will that evolve over the next kind of 12 to 18 months?
I want to use AI as probably the example, but I'm trying to go down a different route. I still think there's a huge amount of opportunity to mine the phones in the correct way. I'm really teetering on the idea of like my next thing that I'm wanting to go and try is like WhatsApp, the right channel to be doing some form of like prospecting as like almost like a nudge touch or like a secondary touch. I haven't done it, but I've had it done to me. And sometimes I do think I just like, or like texting, it doesn't necessarily have to be WhatsApp, but sometimes I do think, hey, is there a missing like personal piece element as part of this? I still think video and voice notes are still very much underutilized within on LinkedIn. I am still thinking about how in an ideal world, I'd love my team to all be posting on LinkedIn. I've seen some really, really good companies that do have their employees posting on LinkedIn, do incentivize it. And I've seen the growth of their business pages as well, which I find fascinating to watch. A company go from 10,000 followers to 40,000 followers and all their employees get to 10, 20,000. So I do think those areas, when done correctly, can be huge things. And there are definitely some areas that I'm looking at outside of the traditional, hey, I think AI is going to be the big thing that changes. But I think we're agreeing that it's not quite there yet. But there are some moments where I think it is working, but it's at the lower level, not at the high level yet.
Yeah, it's interesting, Harry. I have two last questions for you. If you had to compress your outbound playbook or kind of BDR management approach into one guiding principle or mantra to leave listeners with, what is it?
I think it's going to have to be like, always stay curious. I think that is the big thing that I think just gets missed. It's something that one of my old managers told me. He was just like, you want to be going into every call and just like, you always just want to know how that business makes money. Just like ask them questions until they don't want to answer any more questions because you have been so inquisitive about trying to understand that. And I think that's the big thing that I look for in all employees is that curiosity piece. And I think, well, my consultancy business is unlocking your curiosity as the slogan. So
yeah, curiosity comes up as a super common kind of theme in all of these podcasts, from a hiring profile to people they look to promote to people that are, moving up quickly or having the best career acceleration. I agree with that. Last question, Harry. You also, again, in preparing for this, I know you talk to a lot of BDR leaders. I know you advise a bunch of founders as they're thinking about building out this motion. Where do you think most BDR leaders go wrong?
I'm going to flip it around that question just ever so slightly. I think where a lot of businesses go wrong with BDR managers is they hire, and by the way, this is translated definitely into AE management as well. Just because they've been a top performer does not mean that they are the right manager. And I think there's two really bad profiles that I tend to see is like people that are just sometimes just too early on in their career and just sometimes don't have that framework strategic approach that just naturally is in their wheelhouse. I see a lot of companies just promote someone to a team lead and then they say, hey, manage the team, kind of figure it out. And that sometimes that's not their fault at all. Like, then it's about you need to give the right level of coaching. Like, I have been a 24-year-old manager. Like, I'm literally sat there like, Dears, in headlights. I haven't got an absolute clue how to run an effective one-to-one. You learn a lot from your managers. It's this similar saying to like, hey, you learn 75% of your parenting skills from your parents, and the rest is like from TVs and other people's parenting skills. It's the same as management. Your managers are what you end up latching onto. So I think there's a coaching element, but I also think there's also another profile, which is like these people that have been doing BDR management for 50 years and just haven't really adapted to the new way of what I think BDR is looking like. It's still a spread. I was speaking to one guy once from my consultancy, and he said, why should we move our telemarketers to a BD function? Because I don't want them sending emails, and I don't want them ever to be on LinkedIn. He actually ended up getting let go a couple of weeks later after that, but it's just stupid like mindset around things. But to flip back to your question, where do I think BDR managers go wrong? I think businesses keep hold of the wrong talent, or either promote the wrong talent or promote the right talent and then give them the poor coaching so they can't be effective in this role. Because it is a bit of a unicorn role, I think, because there's not many. Again, I'm the only one here at LastPass in a 800-person organization. So you've got to have that network to support you as part of that.
Love it. Harry, this was awesome. I appreciate you sharing some of your journey. I think you have unique lens into the market with the different experience you had and now the interesting business you're at now with kind of this B2C angle. And it's been cool to hear about your journey. Where can people find you if they're interested in jamming on ideas or reaching out?
Yeah, just message me on LinkedIn. I'm someone that spends a lot of time on there. I think it's the normal thing. Just type in Harry Monkhouse and I should come up with a red background.
Love it. Harry, thanks for joining us. I appreciate you sharing some wisdom. Enjoy the curry and beers tonight. Feed up. Enjoy the weekend. Thanks a lot, man. Take care.
Appreciate it. Right. Cheers. Bye-bye.
See ya. Thanks for listening to Cracking Outbound. If this was helpful, let us know by messaging me, Todd Bustler, on LinkedIn, and share this episode with a friend that you think will be interested. If you want more resources about building and scaling all things outbound, you can sign up for our newsletter at champify.io/blog.